if the words you chose could transform your relationships and your life. This week, we're diving deep into the language of love, exploring how honest, loving communication can bridge the biggest divides. If you've ever struggled to speak your truth with compassion or wondered why some conversations go sideways, this episode will show you how to bring more heart and healing to every connection. Hi, and welcome to the U World Order Showcase podcast, where we feature life, health, and transformational coaches stepping up to be the change they seek in the world. I'm your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist, on a mission to help coaches and entrepreneurs amplify their voice, monetize their mission, and get visible, leveraging podcasts and Substack. Today, we are speaking with Brandi Berg. Brandi is a writer, relationship communication coach, obsessed with love, relationships, and art in any form. She is also the creator of a method called bridge language, and we will dive deep into this in just a minute. But first, welcome to the show, Brandi. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you, Jill. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it so much.
So I'm going to ask you the big question, and then we're going to dive right into bridge language, okay?
Got it.
Okay, so what's the most significant thing, in your opinion, as individuals we can do to make an impact on how the world is going?
I would say, and this has a lot to do with my bridge language method, but I would say owning your emotions, taking responsibility for those emotions so we aren't projecting them onto others, making decisions from those places, and then just really what that can do is cause chaos, causes conflict. If you aren't aware of them, if you aren't owning them, if you don't know what's happening with your emotions. So I find if all of us were just a little more aware of our emotions and took responsibility for them, I really think that would save us a lot of conflict and we would have a lot more harmony and peace in the world.
I like that a lot. I've never really thought about owning our emotions because, it's really easy to just like emote on other people and want them to come into your emotional circle and play in that cesspool with you, which it's like everything is designed to play on our emotions and to get us feeling certain ways, which is emotions really just drive chemicals into your body and they do wreak havoc on you, but most people aren't even aware of the way they're being manipulated. And if we would just stop manipulating each other, I think that would help a whole lot.
Yes. And it is really easy to get caught up in somebody else's emotions too, especially if they're very intense. Some of us are maybe can tolerate emotions a little bit better than others. The reason I know so much about emotions and how to deal with them is because I was not very good at them. That's what created I hurt a lot of people in that process. I have made some really bad decisions, not being aware of emotions. And I think, the thing that I find is what is the hardest thing to do, especially in our romantic relationships, but can be in any relationship, is the ability to hold your own emotions and the other person's at the same time, especially when you are activated by them, something that they've said. So how can I hold their emotions at the same time and what they're going through, even though I'm feeling really intense sensations in my body? I either want to run away or I really want to confront or say something hurtful. That is the hardest thing to do. I still have to work on that. I still find myself knowing all that I know and the skills that I've developed. I still have to work really hard at that every single day. That's the biggest key. That's the biggest key, is
Even
holding your own and the others.
trying to step in and help people, trying to placate their emotions rather than holding space for them to have their emotions, to have whatever feelings they need to feel at the moment. And it's okay. We don't have to solve everybody's problems. I personally was really bad at not wanting other people to experience negative emotions, especially around me, because I just wanted to smooth everything over. I wanted everything to be nice and lovely. And I took it as a personal affront if somebody was upset in my sphere. but it's not very nice of me. I thought I was being nice, but really I wasn't, because I was robbing them of the opportunity to feel the emotion that they needed to feel in the moment. It's a hard lesson to
Yes. Do you know Terry Cole's work?
learn.
I have her book. I just can't. Oh, I think it's called Too Much. I'm pretty
No.
sure that's it. And it's about a term that she coined, high functioning codependency,
Mhm.
where you put, I can't remember how exactly she worded it, but you are so invested in the emotional states and the well-being and the needs and everything of others that's what is driving that. That's
Mhm.
driving that. Oh my gosh, you feel this way. Let me fix it. Let me fix it because emotions are really uncomfortable for me. So I can't have that. Your emotions are making me really comfortable. So I need to fix this right now. I have to stop it.
Empaths have that problem because we feel what other people are feeling, and it's really uncomfortable, and it's really hard to say, that's your emotion. That's not my emotion.
Yes. Yes,
And
that's the biggest work of an empath is what's mine and what's yours. And
yeah,
maybe not, and sometimes it might be I am willing to take on what is yours a little bit, but you get to decide what that is and how much of it that's going to be.
and it isn't just because you're feeling what the other person feels, it doesn't mean you have to like move into their life. And I think as an empath, there's the temptation is like, oh, I could fix that, but it's not my life. I have my own things I have to work on.
Yeah.
Just let I can just let you experience that and be there for you and say, oh, I bet that sucks.
Yeah.
And leave it at that. Just, acknowledge that they're having the emotion, but you don't have to join them in it. You don't have to anything. And I
No.
think,
Yeah, you're right. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
oh, you're good.
When you were saying that, I just thought of how for people, it's really at the end of the day, all of us are just wanting to be seen and heard. That's all it really is. So when you say, when can I just say, oh, that must really suck? That's it. Sometimes that's just all that's needed. And we
Yeah.
go so quick into fix it mode with emotions or things like maybe we just let ourselves just have the feelings. And
Mhm.
you'd be surprised at how quickly just that little simple thing and you can move past it. And a
Mhm.
lot of the people that my method is for is I wouldn't necessarily call them empaths, but maybe they fall into this, but it is the person who stays quiet in their relationships because they are so overly invested in the emotional state of the other person. They inherently believe that their needs, their wants, all that doesn't matter, or that the other people must come first, before me. So I'm going to stay quiet because if I speak up, all that ever happens is conflict is created because maybe your past experience has, like in my experience in the past when I done it, but there's a right way to do it. If you just go and do it without having dealt with your emotions, you're going to say things that are not meant to be said to the other person. Um,
Or
so,
maybe you even experience where you're talking to somebody, or you know that if you say certain things or if you express certain emotions of your own in front of certain people, that they're going to have a reaction and it's going to be bad, and they're going to drag you into a confrontation. And you don't want to experience those emotions yourself, and you don't want to experience that other person's immature emotions that they're trying to push onto you. And sometimes you're going to get around people that they don't recognize their own emotions. They don't know how to control their emotions because they don't recognize that they're emoting, and they explode on people. And the people that are close to them, I'm talking about a relationship between a husband and a wife or partners or something, where you've got one person that's really volatile and the other person clams up because they know that if they try to express their emotions, they're going to have a really bad reaction from that other person, or a reaction. It doesn't even have to be really bad, but it's just too much effort to express the emotions that they're feeling because of the emotions that they know are coming from the other person. If that makes
Yes.
sense.
Yes. Yes. And that's part of my work is that I want a huge part of it has to do with emotions. Yes, it is language. Bridge language doesn't really give it all of what is entailed of my method that I teach. The biggest part of it is the emotions and the awareness around it, what to do with those. You know, emotions, I don't believe are meant to be fixed or understood. It is a state within our body, you know, the sensations within our body. So there is no controlling them. There is no, if you try to make meaning, nothing means anything outside of the meaning you place on it, right?
Right.
You know, I had my business coach who is also teaches human design. I don't know if you how much you know about human design, but she had said that, and that's one of the many things about being in that year-long program that stuck with me because it's true. You know, emotions are the thing that come first. You know, there's emotions, there's a sequence that in all the books I have read, all the studying I have done, like neuroscience, the brain, the mind, the body, how all those play together is it's emotions, thoughts, and stories, feelings, and then the behavior comes, the choice. And, you know, just the emotions are the first step in that. So if you are trying to make meaning out of them or figuring out where they're coming from, then you're in your mind. And emotions are not a mind thing. They are just there. They're simply it's simply a state of being. You
It's
know?
a chemical reaction. It
Yeah.
actually causes chemicals to form and be released into your body, and they cause your body to do different things. Like if you're anxious, you'll probably, breathe quicker, or you might sweat, or you might have heart palpitations. Those are chemical reactions from a thought or a response to something, because emotions are generally a response to something that you're experiencing, whether it's a thought or something that's happening in your environment, or yeah, mostly those things. Or other people. Being in proximity to other people can cause anxiety or can cause an emotional reaction. Love is an emotion.
Mhm.
If you're like really close to somebody that you're very attracted to, chemical things happen in your body
Mhm.
that let you know, hey, that guy's near.
Yes.
That's emotions are not bad or good. They just simply exist, and they create reactions in our bodies. It's what we do with those reactions and how long we stay in that state. And they can pass quickly. I think it's like 7 seconds or something. You can move out of an emotional state, but you can choose to stay in it too by continuing to stay in proximity to that person or allow that thought to fester. And then those chemicals keep getting dropped, and then the problem gets worse, and then it's just like
Mhm.
it goes on
Yeah.
and on.
Yes. And you know what I know about emotions, part of what I learned about in human design was a lot of in my solar plexus is where I have a lot of things happening. So I've had a lot that I learned about working with human design and I've learned in many other ways too, but the human design just sticks out to me because some of us basically half of us are defined and half of us are undefined. So half of us are receiving emotions from other people, the other half of us are putting it out there. In any case, we all need to take responsibility. We all need to have awareness. You
Mhm.
know, so what I understand of emotions is that they're the first thing, and you're going to notice it in your body. Well, then that's where the thought comes in. So, this thought or this story, let's say you have fear, and a thought of mine was, oh my gosh, I am never going to find love or safety or attention like
Mhm.
from this person again. That was the thought and the story running in my head. And that led to the feeling of, I don't have any power. I am lacking power. This other person has the power over me. That drove the behavior of continuing to be near that person. So that's how I have defined like emotions being. It's truly It can be from an experience, but oftentimes it's just like it's there. You could wake up in the morning and you're just kind of feeling blah. Don't try to do anything with it. I'm not saying to stay in that state, but sometimes you're just going to be in it. And for women, depending on your cycle, those
Mm,
hormones, which are chemicals, their hormones are chemical messengers, they're going to influence your emotional state. Don't
mhm.
try to, just don't try to fix it. This doesn't mean,
You're not broken. You're
yeah, you're
just
not.
a woman.
You're right. You're not broken. Right. And
Pet
don't try
peeve.
to figure it out and try to do something with it. I mean, that's the most important part is that emotions are not in the logical part of, they're not meant to do that. They're just
Mhm,
meant to inform us. They inform our thoughts and the stories we create.
mhm,
And then those thoughts and stories, like our behaviors, that's where we can find out what we're needing and wanting. So, like, that's part of my framework within the bridge language is
mhm,
love is the acronym. So L is lean into emotions. O is organizing your needs, your wants, and boundaries. V is for voice. This is getting confidence in your voice, standing strong in your voice and what you have to say when you go to have the conversation. And E is for exquisite expression. So, how are we going to express with intent and firm ground? Like we just have a firm grasp and we're not getting caught up in the other person's emotions from what you're saying to them.
mhm.
Those aren't yours. Just be prepared that sometimes when you have these conversations, that's going to stir up things for the other person. That's not yours. So the first step is always going to be the emotions, which lead us to then from those thoughts and stories, that's where you can kind of dig out and find where those needs and wants are. Or maybe you need to hold a boundary. Maybe that's the thing. And with our voice, it's a lot of rehearsing, just like when you were going over your words before. If you write down your points that you want to make, you're going to read it out loud to yourself. Because then you might find, oh, that wasn't very helpful. Maybe that part needs to go out, and that's not gonna do much to the conversation. I'm also not about only keeping it to like I statements. I do believe there is an element of being authentic to saying, yes, when you did that, that's how that made me feel. I think there might be people that disagree with me on that you should keep it to just yourself and how you feel and not point out anything about the other person. But I find that to be just not authentic. I
It
don't,
doesn't solve the problem either.
right,
Because
right. And
it's
you're only gonna do that once you've sat with your own emotions. You're only going to do that once you've sat with your own emotions. You're not going to jump straight to that and say, well, you made me do that. That's not the point. The whole point is that's why we do that first step, you know? And then when we express, with intention, why are you wanting to have this conversation? What do you hope to get out of it? Or what are you prepared for if things don't go, the way you hoped they would go in being able to have that conversation and you're gonna stick to your script. I go by that fully because once we get off track and if they start interrupting, whoever it is that you're having the conversation with, well then that can turn into then you're getting sucked into their emotions and then you're getting off track. So stick to your script, do that scripting part when you're organizing your needs, your wants, and your boundaries. So you can have that strong voice because you deserve your needs and your wants deserve to be heard just as much as the other person's. And this isn't something that you fix overnight, but my method can be something that you practice day in and day out.
I
Yeah.
I have a piece that I would add to that, and this is just over years of experience with having a long-term relationship with my husband. But the there's a difference between going into a discussion with somebody to solve a problem as a victim, like you always or you never phrases. When you go into a discussion with somebody and you start using that kind of terminology, you are going to generate an argument because you're putting that person in the defensive position and they have nowhere to go. There's no middle ground. They're the bad guy and you're the victim. If you go into a conversation and you put out there, hey, I feel like when we get into these situations, I'm being made the victim. And my husband and I joke about this now because we've had discussions about it because I don't like attacking him. And that's what happens often when we just get like so done with whatever the situation is. It just is an attack. And the other person is going to feel the need to defend themselves where you're not going to solve the problem. But if you can approach it in a way where you can let them know, hey, this is a situation, and I would like to express how I feel in this situation, and I would like you to tell me how you feel in this situation. And then you can find a solution rather than just aggravate the problem. Does that make sense
Yes.
to you?
Yes, it does. And just like you said, it's more about this. This is for us to solve together. This
Yeah.
isn't about like you did something wrong or I did something wrong or nothing like that. It's okay, yes, you did this, and then that's how it made me feel. Well, how are we going to move forward together to make it a more peaceful situation, or well, whatever it is that you're talking about. And again, it's always going to come back to, this is why the emotional piece is so crucial, because if we are practicing emotional awareness daily, you'll find yourself in those situations less and less, where you're playing the victim mode or where the ego takes over. Like I had listened to a podcast with Byron Katie on it, and she said, this still, it just sticks with me. But the ego is a childhood's playground. So our egos are always going to try to find a way to be right, to be heard, to be set on, no, they said that on purpose to hurt me, or they did this way because they were, whatever the story is, that there it is, the story again. So the ego can get in the way of our thoughts and come up with these stories that, again, with Byron Katie, what I learned, somebody had turned me on to her work, a friend of mine, and it was this worksheet on, basically the main concept was, is this true?
Yeah.
The story that you're telling yourself true? Do you know it to be a fact? And if you have some people who swear that yes, then they're just probably, then you have to accept where they're at. And they're not, their self-awareness level is just not where yours is. And that's a difficult place to be. When you're having those conversations, depending on whether it's within your family or friends, and then you have to make those decisions for yourself. If you just accept where they are, and if they continue to hurt you, if that's something where you're just gonna walk away and cut ties, or if you're willing to wait it out, and then they might say, I'm not there yet, but I'm willing to work on it together. So yes.
Yeah, I hesitate on cutting ties with people. There's a time when you might not interact as much, but everybody changes. Nobody's always the same forever. People go through phases in their lives, and they might annoy you right now, or they might be going through a phase where they're just like they don't get you, and that's good. It's fine.
Mm.
But just because you're not communicating at this time in a way that's beneficial for everyone, it doesn't mean that there will never be a time. And I'm speaking mostly to parent-children relationships, because it's easy to get mad at your parents and just cut them off. It's very painful.
Yeah, there's people who regret it, who really regret it.
Yeah.
And you should be very considerate. I'm speaking from a place of, I have had to cut people out, not very many. It's not, but it was to a point where it was a person who was benefiting from my old ways. And it had just, where it gets to the point where they're not giving you anything back. And that went on for decades, you know. That
I'm
was,
not
yeah. And
Yeah, I'm not
those
talking
are
about
different
people that are just
situations.
like they
Yep.
come into your life for a season, and there's lots of people like that in the world. They could be your really great friend for a long time, and then things change because people change, and
Mhm.
it may be you who changed,
Mhm.
not even them.
Yeah.
They're still the person that they've always been, and perfectly lovely people. They just don't, they're not still on the same path you're on. You've chosen to go off a different way, or they've chosen to go off a different way. It doesn't make them bad. It doesn't make them anything. And it doesn't make you anything. It's just that your life is going in a direction that it's not compatible with theirs anymore. And it's fine. I'm talking, when I talk about be careful about cutting people off, I mean more like your parents or your kids.
Mhm.
That there's a different kind of bond there that I I really truly believe we all ask for the lives that we get, but there's some painful things that go through there, and um, some patterns that will repeat if we don't aren't real careful. And so we can
Mhm.
end up causing harm to future generations because of the decisions we make, usually in anger.
Yes. Yes, and anger is, often disguised as some other form, like sadness, hurt.
Mhm.
It can be its own thing, but often you'll find that there is a lot of hurt under there. And
Mhm.
anger is more acceptable, I think, as a culture for us
Mhm.
to show, or versus sadness or hurt. And that might not be true for everybody.
And
I-
also forgiveness, I think, plays into that, because a lot of times we think forgiveness means we're excusing people, and forgiveness and excusing people's behavior are two wildly different things. But we've been taught that we forgive everybody. Well, you don't forgive people. For themselves. You excuse behavior that's not appropriate, but you forgive them for yourself in order to be able to either have a relationship with them at a future date if you want to, or to allow your body to calm down and decide where the relationship is going to go, rather than just living in this constant state of emotion.
yes, and yes, forgiveness isn't letting anybody off the hook. And I think we can go to that place where we don't want to forgive, because then that means we make a meaning out of it, right? We think that
Mhm.
forgiveness means that we're letting them off the hook. There's always context for people's behaviors, but context doesn't equal excusing them for what they did. Whereas you can have that context for what they did, or things that they've said in the past, or how they've shown up in the past. And but then maybe hold then I'm always about holding things at the same time, which can feel conflicting. That's the trickiest part. Maybe you want to call that emotional diplomacy. And it's hold that forgiveness, hold the context at the same time. The only body you're hurting is yourself. But you also get to choose. Like you said, not everybody, depending on who it is, however you feel, deserves to be forgiven. That's an individual choice, and depending on the circumstance.
It's not that everybody doesn't deserve to be forgiven. It's they don't all deserve to be excused. All of their behavior does not necessarily need to be excused. They do need to be forgiven for you so that you can move on. You need to be able to not dwell on it anymore. And that's what forgiveness is the ability to process the emotions that you're feeling for yourself. Forgiveness doesn't really have anything to do with other people. It's a personal thing. But we've been so programmed to think that we need to forgive other people that we don't understand that. And it's a powerful tool to help you be able to come to a situation where you can still have a line of communication open with other people, rather than just like, no, you're a terrible, make up all the stories that you have to make up in order to justify not forgiving or not excusing the behavior, where you can just say, no, I just simply do not excuse that behavior. These are my boundaries. I can forgive, I can forgive you for myself, so that I don't have to like process this anymore and play it over in my head. I can just let it be, as like Katie Byron says, loving what is. This
Mm-hmm.
is the situation, and I
Yeah.
choose to accept it. But these are the things that I'm going to do to protect myself because I don't want to go through this experience again.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas forgiveness often implies that we're just going to allow the doormat to remain in place and people are going to wipe their feet on it.
Yeah, yeah,
Usually,
and
yes.
yes. And I think, forgiveness, I don't think is the only way to let go of something. I don't, you wouldn't have to. I mean, there is ways where you just I think that's a great the loving what is. I think sometimes just acceptance maybe is enough.
Yeah.
Without even taking it a step further and going into forgiving, I think accepting what the circumstances are, accepting meeting people where they're at.
Mhm.
It's just huge. Maybe accepting that they're not at the level that you are, whether one of you has outgrown or whatever it is. And that's the whole point of partnership and love is that are we choosing to grow together? Because we're always going to change. So are we agreeing to do this together? And you would know this. How long have you been married, Jill?
30 years.
Wow. Yeah. So I think you would agree with that is that can we choose to grow together and
Mhm.
one of us is in different places or in a difficult place or we kind of have these lulls, like can we just accept each other for where we're at and not
Mhm.
make it mean anything, just kind of sit with each other through those things, I think is huge too. So I love that.
That's really huge.
Yeah.
So, how do you work with people, Randy? Do you work one on one, in groups? How does your coaching work?
I do one-on-ones. I have a mini offering where if you're not really looking to dive fully deep into my method, but you're just wanting help in laying out some words to have a conversation, that's
Mhm.
my little mini one-to-one offering. I'll do that for you where we won't necessarily go through my whole framework, my love framework, but I will help you craft a message to have that conversation, a difficult conversation. Or then there's my workshop, which I offer quarterly. I just did one last week. So I'll be doing one again in October. And in that workshop, that's where we go over the whole framework and you get a workbook to go with it. And that's going to be used basically as your language Bible, like your emotional Bible is what I call it. And that workshop is roughly an hour long with 30 minutes left afterwards for Q&A. And then I have my big one-to-one offering, which is where you meet with me one-on-one, where we go over the framework and the bridge language method and over a particular situation or not, or you just want to come to me and we work through that. I help you craft a message and then you have Boxer access to me for 2 weeks after that. And then I give you a nice little booklet of you with everything that we talked about and how to have conversations, maybe some things that I noticed about what you said and takeaways from that and how to move forward in your relationships. So those are my offerings.
And how can people find them?
They can go to writingforlove.org. Under my products and services section is where I have all of those listed. And then I do have a special section for my workshop where it explains a little bit more in detail about the workshop. And then I will have the upcoming date for it or how to sign up. When it gets a little bit closer, I open up that about a month before to sign up for the workshop.
Awesome. So, you're also on Substack. So, tell us a little bit about that and what people get for joining you over there.
So Substack, I've been on there for close to 1 year now. And I had started it not with any intention really. I was just seeing where it would take me.
Mhm.
I was really drawn to writing. And my business coach said, just see where it takes you. If that's what your gut is, kind of just follow those breadcrumbs. And who knows? You just got to follow what's right and keep going in that direction. And as I was writing, I realized it was relationships and love was what I wrote about a lot. And really through that writing is how I discovered a lot about myself, but also what I'm here to do. And the feedback that I get on my writing is that how people feel so much, or they didn't see love in that way. They didn't think about relationships in that way. So that really feel like, okay, there's something here. So I've continued to write on Substack because I enjoy writing. Writing is where I feel most like myself.
Mhm.
So it doesn't mean it's always easy, but it is where I've found how I make sense out of all of my experiences that I've been through is through my writing, but also through my writing, what you'll get is my level of emotional intelligence as well. So you'll kind of get a taste of what my skills are, what my skill set is as far as when it comes to emotions, relationships, how I handle conflict within relationships. And you're really going to get just the raw, really the things that people don't want to say
That's what
about
I like about
relationships.
Substack. It's
Yeah,
so authentic, and you actually have real conversations with human beings, and everybody doesn't have to agree on everything, but you can have a conversation about it. And the things that are written over there, they make you think and remember, and
I love it.
it's
Yes,
just a wonderful space to be in.
it is. And it just feels it's different than Instagram or any of the other social media platforms. Like you said, it just is a little more cozy, more like more intimate.
Hmm.
You can get to know people better, and there's really, really great writing, like you said,
Yeah.
on Substack. I mean, like you said, it makes you think different and excited to be on there. And it's just fun to read other people's stuff and their points of views, different takes. And that's what my Substack now is somewhat evolving, as I'm getting deeper into like writing a little bit more and figuring out what it is that I really want to say, the thing
Hmm.
that makes me want to, crap my pants, um, that that I think needs to be said. And part of my journey was really my patterns and being addicted to the chemicals within my body that from being in this friendship and in this pattern of running away, then running back to. And, so for me, how I see real love is addiction. And I know a lot of people would disagree with that. Real love is choosing, real love is like feeling grounded and freedom, and those things are all true. I'm not disagreeing with those things. I'm saying maybe what the addiction can do for us is show us where there is love, instead of it's all about the meaning that we place on things, right? Addiction is seen as really bad, something to fix. And I'm not talking about people who are really like deep into drugs. Like this isn't the kind of thing that I am like equipped to say anything on, but those of us who find ourselves addicted to certain ways of being, maybe let ourselves be a little bit messy in that process, and maybe let that addiction, really, really show that's where that love is. If we're wired for love, we're wired for addiction.
Hmm.
I don't believe those two to be separate. What addiction isn't the problem. The problem is trying to fix it and make it mean this really bad thing. Because in my experience, that's how I came to know love, is being really addicted to it. I'm still working through that. When I had to let go of that person, I had withdrawals, like actually shaking, physically shaking and feeling like crap. I didn't realize it back that that's what it was. And I
Hmm.
kept wanting to go back to that person, like find a way to maybe I'll just send him a letter, or maybe I should say I'm sorry, or I'd find all these ways. And, thank God I had my husband to say, no, do you see what? No, like you can't, no, this person hurt you. And there's just no way. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So that's really what my Substack is going to be about, going to those really deep and dark places, because that's the place I like to go. I want to know those parts of people that you don't want to talk about, that you don't want to share. Sorry, but they're necessary. They're necessary. They're a part of who we are. And if we deny ourselves those really dark parts, what they call, their shadow work and all of that, kind of stuff. But I want people to feel comfortable in that and not deny themselves that. So that's part of what that is. You're going to get really just vulnerable, really deep and sincere. It's really sincere stuff. It's just coming from a place of what I know to be true, and I know I'm not the only one. I know there's people who are there and have felt ashamed because of their behaviors that they've done out of love, or being addicted to love, or being addicted to the patterns that were created, these unhealthy patterns that created all these chemicals like we talked about, and emotions and things running through your body. So through my Substack, you'll find a lot of that, and hopefully able to just give yourself that permission to see those parts of yourself in your relationships, and have some compassion for yourself.
Very well said. Thank you so much for joining me, Brandi. This has been a
Thanks,
great
Jill.
conversation.
Thank you.
To connect with Brandi, be sure to subscribe over on Substack. Her Substack is brandijo3535.substack.com. Thank you for tuning in with us today. If you have a podcast or are interested in starting one, be sure to reach out to us at support@heartlifecoach.com. We love to help spiritual entrepreneurs and coaches amplify their voice and monetize their mission, and offer a variety of ways to do this leveraging Substack. Join us for our next episode as we share what others are doing to raise the global frequency. And remember, change begins with you. You have all the power to change the world. Start today and get visible.